Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the tier list. We have a very good episode for you today. We've got sitcoms, and there are four of us today. Ben Ritson has went away for a while. He got destroyed in the last podcast with N'Golo Kante, so it's just me, Mangan, Collins.
How you doing, guys? I'm excited for this one. This one's my choice.
Neil.
Hello.
And Patrick.
Hello.
So before we begin, how are we doing? We watched any good sitcoms, try and get ourselves ready for this?
No. Well, all the ones I haven't seen before are bad ones, so it's quite unfortunate having to watch them.
It is a bit weird having to go on YouTube and looking at like such and such funniest moments, and the funniest moments you can't even crack a smile at.
Yeah, I never thought I'd YouTube Sex and the City funniest moments.
There was some weird things when you search for once you put sex in the search bar that it got really strange.
Yeah, don't do that on YouTube. Not recommended.
Yeah, it's like searching for the song "Jerk It Out" and accidentally googling something else.
I mean, I don't want to be on Google Images for that, let's just say. So, shall we get right into it?
Yeah, go on. And seeing as it's my topic, I'll start off. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at the ones that I'm bringing forward, and what's the best way to start off this tier list. And I think I have to go for possibly the biggest sitcom of all time, in Friends. Also, the most overrated TV show of all time, in Friends.
Are you having a laugh?
No.
I'm staying out of this one. I think it's average at best. But I'm staying out of this one.
This is classic case of people not liking something because it's popular.
No,
This is classic case.
I never liked it. I think Chandler for me was the only good thing about it.
No,
but over there, Mangan.
No. Ross is hilarious. I think Ross is the best character.
Ross is a whiny.
I'm sorry.
David Schwimmer's comedic acting is fantastic.
His best work was in Madagascar, and we all know it.
No, David Schwimmer's comedic acting is amazing. His physical comedy, there's no one better. He's brilliant.
I'm sorry, but Ross as a character is one of the worst things on TV to be presented as a good guy. He's a guy who couldn't get over his childhood crush and tries to ruin Rachel's life in order to try and make sure he eventually ends up with her.
But we're not analysing the deep, inner-rooted relationships of the show.
This is alright, Tim.
I'm just on about how funny it is, and it's hilarious. I'll give you the first 2 or 3 seasons are not great.
I'm sorry, how many seasons were there?
10. So
that's nearly a quarter, sorry.
No, but every show starts off slow, and the first episodes of that came out in like 1994, 95, so that's a long time ago. But I just think the way it progressed is just unbelievable.
Maybe it's a product of its time. Like, it's definitely iconic, right? But, maybe now the humour doesn't quite hit as it did back then.
For me, it does. I've seen every episode like 20 times, and it still gets me. It's still, I don't know. If it's not for you, it's not for you.
No, it's just never really clicked with me. Like, I have watched quite a bit of it, but it's just never got into me, really. And
as this is my one, it's not that I think that Friends is bad. I think it's an incredibly overly hyped show, seen as some landmark of comedy, when they're just the actual characters are all horrific.
But I think it is a landmark of comedy. It's so iconic. It's still like being played by so many people today. So many people today are still watching it like 20 years on.
Like I said before, I think Chandler's the only real exception. Maybe Phoebe as well.
Joey's a nice guy.
It grates on me.
He's an idiot. No, the thing is, Paddy, you like you've said that the best seasons are when the characters lose their traits and become only one-note characters. Monica is only someone who likes to clean and is very bossy. Chandler only does sarcasm. Ross only acts like he's better than everyone because he got a doctorate degree. Phoebe is only crazy. Joey is the biggest idiot in the world who doesn't like food. I mean, the French episode, the episode where Phoebe teaches Joey French is seen as one of the most popular like comedy moments in the show, and yet it's just stupid.
But it doesn't have to be like genius to be like funny. Funny is just funny. Like it doesn't have to be this incredible piece of writing to be funny. It can just be the way someone's delivered.
But it's not delivered well.
It is.
It's not. It's Joey going left flippity fleur.
Yeah, and it is. That's funny.
But it's not because that's not a human being. They're meant to be regular people who live in New York. No one is that stupid to think that's French.
No, but it's an exaggeration of a stupid human. And that's what all comedy is. It's exaggerations of things. It doesn't have to be realistic. Like if someone's realistic, it's not funny.
I mean,
go on, Neil.
Well, some comedies work well with their realism and their grit, right? Some comedies do. Other comedies, they might, rely more on the elements of fantasy. Both of them can be funny.
And I think we'll see both types of that during this podcast, but I think this tries to be real in a sense and just strays too far off.
I'm actually the complete opposite of you, Paddy, in that I think the earlier seasons where the characters have more traits than just one are the better seasons.
No, I disagree. I think the actors just grow into the role so much better in the further seasons, and the writing just becomes so much more funny.
Sorry, Mangan, I slightly cut you off. You were going to say something?
No. I was just, I'm staying back here. I've said my little piece. I've never really watched. I've seen episodes, but I've never been religious. It's obviously you guys who have your big opinions on it.
All right. I think, do we want to take it to a vote then? Oh, and Neil, you want to say something?
What Friends character are you? This is a question everyone kind of asks, isn't it? What Friends character?
I've literally been told that I'm Chandler, I wasn't told it in the kind way. I was told it in that I was the funny, lonely guy.
Yeah, I think it's very generous they gave you funny.
Guess I'm Chandler as well.
No, I'd probably be Gunter. Just gotta be a Gunter in life. Always on the outside looking in. Right, I think we should vote on this. I think you've had two compelling arguments, really.
I'm going Golden Globe. Yeah, I don't care. That's what I think.
Honestly, I consider it average.
I'd vote average.
I'm also an average.
Oh, Paddy is fuming.
I'm so sorry to everyone out there. But I just wanted to be known I didn't put it there.
And that's where you're wrong. Right, I think I'm gonna go next. And we spoke about some comedies being real, some sitcoms being ridiculous. I am going for the ridiculous. I'm going to go for the IT Crowd. I love this show. The characters, the situations that they get in, everything about it for me scream hilarity. I think loads of people in this country and Britain altogether can recite at least one line from the IT Crowd. That's how iconic it is, really. It is honestly one of my favorite shows. I think it does have its flaws at times. I think sometimes the comedy does drag. I think the first season was probably the weakest one. I think what we'll see in a lot of these comedies is the first season is everyone getting getting to grips to what they have. But I think this is one of the best comedies in probably British history.
I think compared to a lot of other shows, the IT Crowd kind of hits instantly. It's one of those shows that even from season one, I think it's quite funny instantly. You kind of get what the show's about instantly.
Yeah, I don't think there's a bad season in the IT Crowd. And I've got to ask, Mangan, did you see that ludicrous display last night?
What was Wenger thinking? It's not even the big jokes as well. It's the tiny things, like when Moss wore a neck break after speaking Cockney for so long, stuff like that. like they don't just throw it at you; they just like tap you on the shoulder with it as well. Like
it's incredibly stupid humor that is, but it's just hilarious, and it doesn't matter that it's not like extremely clever humor or brilliant writing. It's just funny, and I found Richard Ayoade's character like the most interesting one because he plays the character like his acting's like quite bad, but it kind of works. Like it kind of adds to the funniness of the character, and it kind of works with it. So that was kind of weird.
Plus, you've got Matt Berry as Douglas Renham, who is an hilarious actor in itself. Like, I'll probably, if we did a part 2 of this, I'll probably add one of his sitcoms on it as well, because he's just, the voices he makes make me howl.
Paddy, why do you say that the writing's not brilliant? That confuses me, because I think the IT Crowd is brilliantly written. Unfortunately, I will preface, it's written by a massive transphobic bigot, but, you know, it is brilliant. IMO.
Well, to be honest, I haven't seen probably as many episodes as you. From what I've seen more of the early episodes. It's more like stupid humor to me. It's just kind of silly stuff that's acted kind of in an over-the-top way, but it works. That's how I see it.
Yeah, it really does suck that the writer of it is such an awful person because he makes such good shows.
You know, I think you know the workouting episode, the bit where Roy gets locked in the toilet.
Oh my god!
Like, took 10 minutes of the funniest comedy I think I've ever. Like it's just like it's a belly laugh constantly for 10 minutes. It's so perfect.
Everything about it when he's on the floor, when he gives the description of the person who robbed him, and then someone actually gets arrested for it. When Moss gets taken away by the staff and he has to serve drinks, just you can pick so many moments from all seasons of the IT Crowd, and it just make you howl. But like I said, there's parts in the first season that I don't think drag on a bit. That's just my opinion. I'd have probably put it at great if I had. Like
what I look for in a TV sitcom is just constant laugh out loud moments, and that's what you get from this show. Like I've got a short attention span, so you've got to keep me laughing every like 10 seconds, like, and that's what it gives you, and that's what I love about it.
I think another thing that makes it like some of the best is you always go, what's your favorite episode? What's your favorite episode? Some of these that we'll look at later on, you're like, none, because they're crap. But there's so many options as well. That's what I love about this show.
Well, it looks like we're all talking pretty positively about it.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to put it in top 2 tiers.
Yeah.
It's just a case of which one.
Like I said, I think great. I think there's parts in the first season that drag on a bit. There's a couple of episodes that, for me, don't click with me, in a sense. But at no point will I be like offended if it went Golden Globe. Really.
I want to hear your votes first before I do mine.
To me, it's also a great. I think looking at other TV shows on the list, it lacks a little something compared to others. That and I think it's more I don't truly get engaged with the characters. I get engaged with the scenario they end up in, but it's not like the character that I get into it with. So I think that's what lacks for me, but it's still an amazing show with so many funny moments. And we're talking about best episodes. To me, is the football one.
There is now that you've said that, there is one bad writing moment that I thought at the end of season 1 where Moss and Jen and Roy and Moss's psychiatrist, who reminds him of his mum, slept together. I thought there was going to be another episode after that where that was focused on. It was just like cut entirely. I was a bit disappointed with that, really. That's about it, really. Neil, what you're thinking?
I don't really think the IT Crowd has many flaws at all, to be honest. I'd be very tempted to see Golden Globe. You know what? I would put it there. I don't really have any problem with the show at all. I think it's fantastic. I could watch it for hours on end.
It's just its creator.
Golden Globe, but Graham Linehan is not allowed to pick up the award until he stops being a terrible person.
Well, that's not going to happen, Neil. I don't know what you want us to say.
I'm going to finish the vote, and I'm going to say great. I could easily put it in Golden Globe. I'm kind of on board with Collins with the character thing. I think some of the acting goes amiss, but it kind of works for the show. But I'm going to say great.
All right.
Right. Patrick, would you like to go next?
You know what? I'm going to talk about White Gold.
Okay.
Now, this recently came on Netflix. It's got 2 seasons. Ed Westwick, formerly of Gossip Girl.
Oh.
Quite a surprise when I realised he was English. But I actually think this is a pretty decent show. I like the style. It's quite a unique style, the way he talks to the camera so often. I know that happens in a few other shows, but if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. I think it's well acted by Ed Westwick, and I of course I like the 2 In-Betweeners boys. What are the names?
Let's just say Simon and Jay.
Joe Thomas and
Jay Buckley.
James Buckley.
Yeah,
no, I like them as well. And I think it's a decent show. It's not hilarious, but it's pretty funny and pretty unique concept. And I quite like it.
I thought it was average. I thought it's kind of bad when your main character is the worst one. And for me, that was what it was like. I thought, oh my God, I'm just going to call them Simon and Jay. I'm not like
Joe Thomas
and James Buckley. I thought they were much the better characters in it, especially with their competitiveness against each other. And I'd like the premise, like, because who looks at a double glazing company and can get a comedy out of that? But I thought Ed Westwick was not a good.
Really?
I didn't like it. I liked the show,
well.
but I didn't like him in it.
But I think he works well. I think he's well suited to the role. Kind of the sort of arrogant, but somewhat kind of likable businessman who's very smart, quite funny. I think it works.
Oh, it wasn't likable for me at all. I thought he was just a bit.
Yeah, but I don't know. He's arrogant in a kind of funny way, you know.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Neil, do you want to go first?
Oh, Collins, that's code for I have not seen it.
I know I've watched both seasons, but I just figure, let Neil go first. I'm kind.
Hey, I mean, the setting's very cool. We haven't really mentioned that apart from the double glazing, right? Like the 80s setting is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
I don't see many comedies set in that sort of era, and them playing off that. I think that's a cool little unique thing. I mean, whether the humor hits, it's pretty good, right? This is the most funniest thing I've ever seen before, but it's a cool setting with a decent show.
One thing I will say is that I remember when it was first getting released. Was it on BBC One? Was it
BBC? It came BBC Two.
BBC Two, yeah. Yeah. People were calling it a mini In-Betweeners reunion, and I think that bunked it down because it's nothing like that, really.
Yeah, but I think that's literally just because
that's just the media.
It's just because the 2 characters.
Oh, of course, it's just like
obviously
just the media.
It's completely different to the In-Betweeners.
Well, yeah, it is its biggest strength and its biggest weakness. Brian and Martin, the characters of James Buckley and Joe Thomas, just so we actually get that across for once. They are Simon and Jay, and it is Jay, Brian having a go at Martin. And that is its greatest aspect, but it is a lesser version of Simon and Jay. It is it is obviously kind of easy to tell the fact that it is written by the same people who created the In-Betweeners.
Yeah, I think the problem with those actors, they're always going to get typecast because we're always going to know them for the In-Betweeners. But I think they're funny actors and they should be getting roles.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, I think like Ed Westwick's role as Vincent, he's meant to be like Don Draper, isn't he? But funny. It's like trying to take the advertising marketing of agency setting of Mad Men and turning it into a comedy because it's about double glazing windows, And I think it sort of works with Vincent's, talking to the camera about here's how you do this, here's how you do that, but it really doesn't need the he's having an affair on his wife and he ends up getting kicked out of the house at one point and how disgraceful of a human being he is. You've already got that from the way that he talks to you. You don't need the home life section. I feel like maybe the show would have worked better if he was a bachelor.
I agree with that. I think that ruined it a bit. That put me off a bit because, like, you could, even after the first episode, you could kind of tell he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, he was just one of those guys.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's like, I think because 2017 is Mad Men at its height of popularity, or is it just ending at this point?
I thought it was just ending. Remember.
Just ending. So there you go. It's just ending. Mad Men, one of the most popular shows of this decade, and its main character is a smooth talking guy who has troubles at home that you just don't really expect, and like they tried to turn that into a comedy, and it's its biggest weakness that's kind of saved by Martin and Brian, who again just a lesser version of Simon and Jay. It's basically just what if the in-betweeners never grow up.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Pad?
Kinda. I wouldn't put it anyway. I wouldn't compare it to the in-betweeners in any way, but I'd put it as average. I think it's decent. It's worth a watch, but it's nothing spectacular. So I'd put it average.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go average as well. Really, I think it's one of those sort of shows. I think you'd watch once and you wouldn't really watch again, in my opinion. But yeah.
But it is worth watching once.
Yeah, it is.
But maybe not again.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix internationally, so if you haven't seen it, you can watch it. It's only 12 episodes long. Again, I'd say average.
Stop it, Collins. Stop it. We are not getting the sponsorship from them yet. We don't give out freebies.
Well, watch the show.
I don't think Netflix needs sponsorship.
Yeah. But yeah, average for me. It, like you've said, I've never rewatched an episode.
Neil, last vote.
I concur. It's pretty mediocre, isn't it? It's a fine piece of television. It's nothing special.
Yeah.
Right, and on that note, we go straight back to Neil to see what he wants.
Right, okay. Shall we talk about something that seems a bit contentious? Let's talk about Sex and the City. Now,
let's not.
Do we have to?
I'm going to introduce this by talking about the IMDb comments for this show.
Always a good place to start.
I found some interesting things, whether you go by highest review first or lowest review first. So, if you go on the IMDb page for Sex and the City and set the comments to, highest rating first, what you will see is, and no political spin on what I'm about to say, a lot of beta submissive men talking about how much they should care for the woman in their life, how many massages you should give them in a day, and stuff like that. That's one side. They are the people who love this show. Now, if we turn it to the lowest rated comments, what you will see is a collection of incels, alt-right people, and Nazis complaining that women should get back in the kitchen. So that should really tell you about how contentious the show seems to be.
I mean, I really don't want to talk too much about this show.
Should we put this in average so we don't get said that we're one or the other?
Oh, right, true.
Well, no, I don't want to be called a Nazi or a beta male. So can we just put it in average?
I mean, I was gonna say one of them is better than the other. Let's be honest.
I mean, I would put it average, but I can't because it's that.
I
can't
terrible. Put it. No, we were literally.
I'll take the abuse.
We were literally watching some of the stuff before, and it was like, it made me cringe.
What I was just thinking watching this, if there was a male version of this show, oh my god, it would get slandered left, right, and centre.
It would be cancelled after one episode.
The women, feminists online would be all over it. Like, yeah.
But this came out in 1996, 1994.
Yeah, it's not aged well.
I kind of want to say one of the phrases that I heard during the best bit, but I can't because I don't want to get content warned.
We've already said Nazis.
I don't think that's too bad. That's a part of the debate.
Say it.
It's when she was talking about someone's personal pipe, and she went, "It's dicktastic."
Oh my god!
I was cringing so much.
Mate.
To be fair, at the end of the day, considering what's happening in America with Nazis at the moment, I mean, Deshaun Jackson has basically decided that it's okay to be Hitler was all right and he had some decent ideas now. America, you are crazy.
I want to know Neil's idea, because I think we were all surprised when we saw that this was going to be on it.
I mean, the thing is that, I will put my own piece here. I don't know if it's because I'm male, but hey, I thought it's pretty boring as a thing. Like, making a show that's mostly talking about sex and buying luxury items, isn't it a bit crass? Like, the show kind of comes off of this idea, like, oh, it's so great to be a gold digger. I'm not really sure about that. Like, some people will probably think that's progressive for its time, the way they talk very openly, with a very frank approach to talking about sex and stuff like that. But I have to admit, for me, it just kind of comes off as a bit crass. Like, I kind of get, in the mid-90s, there's a very different attitude towards openness towards that kind of thing. But for me, I just thought it was boring, and it doesn't really send the right kind of message.
Well, could they try and cater to the average woman's dream? Going out, having fun, drinking cocktails with your mates all the time, stuff like that. Is this show a sort of awakening, really?
Is that really what we want to portray as the average woman's dream? I mean, obviously, I don't want to talk about it because I'm not a woman, so it's not my place to say, is it, really? I don't want to be mansplaining on this podcast. I
mean, that's the thing. I'm just saying what I watched. I can't put my own spin on it, really. It's literally, what we see. Paddy, what do you think? Yeah, go on.
I don't think it does women justice, this show, to be fair. It doesn't portray them in the best light.
At the end of the day, one of the characters is called Mr. Big.
Why was he called Mr. Big? Is that?
Why do you think?
Actually, yeah.
Why do you think?
Okay, yeah. Oh no. Was that the guy who was in Law and Order? Or that's the only reason I could know
it's
who
Chris
he is.
Noth.
Yeah, he's in Law and Order. Yeah. Okay. That's the only reason.
Shall we vote?
Yeah, Catwoman.
Catwoman.
Ironically, Catwoman, actually.
I'll take the risk of being called a Nazi.
Oh, I'd probably say it's bad. But, I do appreciate its progressive characteristics.
Let's put it in Catwoman and move on.
I think
I can't put it higher than that, I'm sorry.
Which picture's Catwoman? Not Catwoman, Sex and the City.
It's the one with the
Kim Cattrall right at the front.
Yeah. Should be bottom left. On the bottom row.
Oh, that's right. Now we're forward in. Now we're back on Collins.
Yeah, we go our way back to me, and I figure if I'm going to I started off with one really popular sitcom, I might as well continue it with another. I'm going to go with The Big Bang Theory.
Now, this really does split opinion.
This is a contentious show. There's a lot of, it's 12 seasons. You're always going to make enemies. I mean, we look at Friends with its 10 seasons. It made an enemy out of me and Mangum. I think it's better than Friends.
I enjoyed it during the best years, probably between seasons 4 to 7 or 8, something like that. I think it went on for 3 or 4 seasons too long.
Yeah, it is in its prime. It's a very funny show. I think some of the characters, Sheldon, Howard, Roy, are very funny characters, to be fair. And I like the idea because nerds, the whole nerd thing is kind of a funny concept. But the problem was, in the first 5 seasons, they didn't progress the story at all. They were just trying to make funny shows. So that by the time it got to season 5 and they wanted to start progressing the show, they had so much catching up to do that it ended up making the show go on for way too long, and then suddenly the humour started to become repetitive towards the end, and that was its problem.
I think in particular as well, you say that they didn't do any of the story, like none of the story went along with it. Only 2 characters had a branching story, and that was Leonard and Penny. They had their relationship breakup, they got together, and then at about, what is it, season 8, 7, they get married, and then the show continues for 5 more. That's sort of meant to be a stopping point, because Leonard and Penny, they're the 2 main characters, but they hadn't, but apart from Howard, who'd gotten married, no one else had done anything. And you can sort of be okay with that, like for Sheldon, but like Raj, you expect something. And with them still making money, it was like, okay, well, you know what, we'll keep making episodes. We'll give all the other characters their ending, and then it carried on to what it is, and it kind of ruined Lenny and Penny.
Lenny and Penny.
Yeah, Lenny. I ship them. That's their shipping name.
Lenny and Penny.
Lenny and Penny.
Jenny was about to call her Penny.
What a name! It's Kelly all over again.
Leonard and Penny. It ruined them as characters because they became passengers in their own show, and it just it worsens the quality because they're meant to be the focal point, and they just end up not. So I'm curious to see what you guys think of it.
I think towards the end as well, it got, you know, during the beginning, middle, it had nerdy references, but they were quite smart and clever and put in all right. Towards the end, they were saying like nerdy stuff like Star Wars, Star Trek, stuff like that, just for the sake of it. Like, there's this clip towards the end where it's like, this is a table tennis game for like the Star Wars, Star Trek TARDIS championship or something, and I'm just there like, it's not just saying nerdy stuff isn't funny. You actually have to work stuff in.
Well, as I said, because it went on for too long, that the jokes started to become repetitive, and they started to kind of reuse sort of jokes, old jokes and that.
Did Leonard and Penny end up having a kid or anything?
I think they did, yeah. No, I swear they did.
No, I know Howard did.
Howard and Bernadette have multiple kids. I think maybe Penny gets pregnant.
I think, yeah, she was pregnant.
I can't remember.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like that's 5 years in between.
That's the thing.
5 seasons in between.
That's the thing. I didn't watch it after, like, I tried to stay on it, but it just loses you by the end of it.
Yeah,
really.
It loses you around season 10, maybe possibly even early if you're not the biggest fan of the show. But it's still a good show. Like, at its best, it is funny, which has to be taken into account. But another thing, it did actually end well, despite it going on for too long. The last episode is a good conclusion, and it wraps it up quite nicely, which is what I will say about it.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
Neil, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, you guys are all gushing over the show, but, well, put it this way. I enjoyed The Big Bang Theory, like, years ago when I was a bit younger. But a few years ago, I read an article about the show that really, really changed my opinion on it quite a lot. And it was an article, and now I've seen like lots of copycats show up since then, that portrayed The Big Bang Theory as an inherently sexist show. And since I read that, I have really been on that path. I'm not sure how into detail I should go, given like, the time we have. But basically, I think the show is aged pretty poorly now. I don't quite understand why it's so acceptable when other shows now are being, cancelled left and right for being a bit... but the show normalized being creepy towards women, shall we say? Like Raj in the early seasons where he couldn't talk, or, Leonard being rejected continually, and then somehow he actually gets in a relationship and then a marriage and all that kind of stuff. And, like, this whole idea, like, creepy guys, it's just okay to act like that around women. That article I read really kind of changed my opinion on the show and made me think it's a lot darker than it might look. I don't know. I think that is normal though, because I think there's a lot of guys.
No, explain.
Let me explain. No, let me explain. Let me explain what I mean. Like, you're saying, Raj not being able to talk to girls. I think that a lot of men have that problem, and Leonard constantly getting rejected. A lot of men have that problem.
No, a lot of there are men who get rejected a lot. Paddy, the point that Neil's making is the fact that you're not meant to keep trying after you get rejected
by the same girl.
But
you are right there, Neil, in that there is an inherently sexist sort of thing with what you're saying. That's unfortunately just Hollywood and TV in general, though. Like how many rom-com movies have the guy get rejected a bunch of times, then he gets a date, but he blows the date, but he manages to save it all at the end.
I don't know if I'd call it creepy though. I wouldn't say it's them acting creepy. I just think it's them being really awkward nerds.
I think we're looking at a dark part of Paddy's psyche here.
Not really.
Do we need to end this episode now?
No, I'm just saying it's quite. I'm just saying it's quite normal to be awkward around like girls and that. Like it's nothing crazy.
That's true, but you see here, like the difference is like, okay, you can be creepy around girls because you're a bit awkward, fine. But here that's played for laughs. Like that's funny. They portray being awkward and making women feel awkward as a funny thing to do. That's quite problematic.
It's because they're not doing it on purpose though. Like they're not trying to be creepy. They're trying to do what they think they'd want them to do, but it's not because they're awkward and they don't know what to do really.
Oh mate, Howard's definitely trying to be creepy.
Oh, okay.
Howard was creepy all the time.
Yeah, Howard was creepy, but I was thinking more Raj based, but
Raj I think is a bit harsh. I mean, that's meant to be portrayed as like a genuine mental condition that he can't speak to women because he's terrified of women. But
I think it's an exaggerated version of a real problem now.
Just going to say, there is a scene where Raj takes off all his clothes in front of, I think it's in front of, is it in front of Penny in a restaurant?
He's drunk though, isn't he?
Oh, well, that changes everything, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, you do stupid things when you're drunk.
Paddy, you are going down a dark road here, sunshine.
Sexual harassment is not funny.
No, but I'm just saying, like, he was drunk, like.
Oh, no, stop talking.
What? Why?
Good gods.
No, like,
Paddy's just saying sexual harassment is all right, only if you're drunk, though.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Kevin Spacey was drunk.
Oh, well, not getting into that. Gee, right.
That's
Can we please vote?
It's been, I think I didn't get across it. When I said that I thought this was better than Friends, I meant with its earlier season stuff. I really hate the last half of this show. To me, it's bad. Oh.
I'm going to say average because I think at its prime it's very good. We haven't talked about the acting of Jim Parsons playing Sheldon, which is excellent, to be fair. And I think the acting on the other characters is also very good. And I think in its prime, it's a very funny show, but it really, really does fade. So I'm going to say average.
Neil, what do you think? I need a couple more seconds to think.
Bad. I didn't think it was very funny anyway, at least not as a mature person. But, with those added things I just spoke about, it's bad.
How many episodes did you say? How many seasons, rather, Collins?
12 seasons.
12 seasons.
72 episodes.
And only 3 or 4 of them were tolerable. Terrible. Oh my God, my tongue's gone. There we go. Were good for me, really. I'm gonna stay bad as well, honestly.
Fair enough.
But now we're on me, and I think we're gonna be sticking with the bad here because, well, it's the Big Show.
Jesus. Apologies to your ears.
I need to do that because you gotta have the Big Show entrance, don't you? When I saw this was coming out, I was grimacing already at the thought of it. And when I actually watched it, it was really, really bad. I thought it was actually going to be like a 12 or something for some reason. Don't know why. And turns out it was meant to be for kids. Maybe that's why I wouldn't put this at the bottom tier directly because it is meant for kids. Like, it's not taking itself like, oh, it's not meant to be for adults. It's kids humor. But you could say that for a lot of things. You could say that for Drake and Josh. You could say that for like stuff like Phineas and Ferb, Where's the Waverly Place. But I would probably say it's bad. Like, there's a good episode.
You're gonna laugh, mate. It's the same level as Big Bang Theory for the Big Show.
Yeah, because it's only one season.
And it's absolute trash one season.
Look, the thing is, yeah, you're entirely right. I mean, the Big Show should not be on this list. It doesn't fit it's not at all similar to anything else that we've got. It's designed for kids. It's essentially a Disney Channel sitcom. You can't say that, oh yeah, it's absolutely rubbish because compared to IT Crowd, because it's different.
But at the same time, if you're comparing it to other, like, even if you're comparing it to other kids' TV shows, you'd still put it bottom because it's so much worse than, like, as you said, a Drake and Josh or a Sweet Life of Cody, Wizards of Waverly Place.
Paddy, name a kids' TV show that's came out this year that you think is good.
I don't watch any kids' TV shows.
You think that Drake and Josh is good because you go back to your nostalgic times when you watched Drake and Josh?
No, because I've seen it again.
If you were watching Drake and Josh, right, Paddy, if you were watching Drake and Josh for the first time at the age of 23, you would think it was rubbish. You like Drake and Josh because you watched it during a time period where Drake and Josh was good to you.
Well, no, I've seen Drake and Josh back, Sweet Life and Zack and Cody back. Scenes from that will still make you laugh. Not one part of the Big Show will make you laugh. I mean, I don't think kids will laugh at the Big Show. I
mean, have you seen Mark Henry, lad?
Listen, mate.
It'll take you down, but it'll make you laugh as well.
I watched what was supposedly the best episode. I don't think I laughed once, mate. Come on.
Well, it's the best. Hang on, it's the best episode because me, Mangan, and Neil like wrestling.
That is breaking news on this podcast, by the way. You know a bit about us now.
How can we possibly put that on the same level as Big Bang Theory?
Because it's 6 episodes compared to 220 odds.
That's not an argument. That's not an argument. 6 episodes. You've got to judge what you can see, and surely you watch that and think it's absolutely god awful. How can you think anything else?
Mangan, does show contain any sexist tropes?
No, because it's a kids show and they treat them all with respect.
Doesn't that immediately suggest that it's better than the Big Bang Theory?
True.
No, but because I think it's opinion that.
In fact, actually, now you mention it, Neil, Big Show is a perfect father.
And the wife has a job and brings home the bacon.
I'm not having this.
Their middle daughter is going for lower school class president.
You can't say it's one tier below Friends.
And breaks off her relationship because it would have ruined her integrity. What? That's a role model for my daughter.
I'm not judging the show on role models. I'm judging how funny it is. It's not funny, and no one can say it is.
I'm sorry. I've laughed more at Mark Henry, Rikishi, and Mick Foley singing Backstreet Boys while the Big Show dances with his wife than anything on Big Bang Theory.
Oh my god,
that does sound quite funny.
It's really deal.
You've got them eating like crab and Rikishi eating it straight from the bone.
Mark Henry and Big Show getting a massage together. Genuinely,
there is one part of it that really made me laugh was when Mark Henry called Big Show white chocolate.
See, you know why we really like that joke though? Because we're wrestling fans and we know that Mark Henry's original wrestling nickname was Sexual Chocolate.
It is. Well, it's not an offensive. It's not like big. It's a kid show that you can chuckle a bit at. It's bad.
God, no, you can't.
It's bad. It's not average. It's bad, but it's not Catwoman. I'm not putting it.
Oh my god!
Where do you think I was going to put it?
Your opinion?
Neil? Have we lost Neil?
Have we lost Neil?
Sorry, it was just a bit choppy for a second. I would put it in bad too.
Oh my god! What is what?
Come on, guys, tell me why. Ain't nothing.
No,
That's a power ballad.
Let me get copyrighted here.
Oh, not in my voice.
This is this is broken. This is broken.
I feel happy. I feel pure happiness.
Same level as Big
Putting Big Show on the same level as Big Bang Theory has given me as much joy as watching Big Bang Theory.
I'm so sorry,
Paddy, where would you have put Wizards of Waverly Place on this tier list?
It's been a long time.
And?
But definitely above Catwoman.
There you go.
Maybe average.
I think you're being generous. But anyway.
Yeah, mine, your next choice.
My next choice is Paddy's next choice because I just did the Big Show. So Paddy, what are you on?
Let's go from the ridiculous to the ridiculous. And the in-between is the US version.
Oh.
Gotta start with the bad one. Now, has anyone actually seen the show?
I have seen the trailer and I think I've seen a few clips as well.
That's not good enough, that. You gotta really watch every episode to appreciate the sheer failure of this show. It's a show.
What my favourite part of this show is?
The ending.
Well, yes, that. But my favourite part is when they turn Jay into a paedophile.
What?
Oh my god! Whoever was in charge of the characters in that show just messed them up completely. Like they made Neil, they turned him from stupid to literally brain dead. Like they made the characters two extreme versions of what they're meant to be.
Wasn't Neil meant to be like on weed and stuff?
Yeah, but he's permanently on weed and it's actively rotted his brain away.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so they made a couple of the characters like Neil and Will too extreme, and the other couple of characters too under extreme. Like they just got the characters so badly wrong. And to be honest, it's never a show that should have made it over to the States anyway, because what's so good about it is it's quintessentially British humour, and it's a very British show that shouldn't have been translated over there.
There are quite a few sitcoms that we could have put on here that are British sitcoms that have been made in America or elsewhere. There are some. Yeah, there are some hits. There are some misses, but this is more than certainly a miss. They even repeat some jokes from the original, and they just don't hit at all.
Yeah, exactly. There's the same jokes that make you howl in the English version, but when you put them in the American version, they somehow manage to mess them up. It's incredible.
The first episode is literally a shot-to-shot remake of the first episode, but they change how some of the jokes work. Like the joke where Will's gone the toilet, and the bullies see him and start and take a photo and laugh at him. Well, no, they don't take a photo, but they laugh at him, and it ends up developing a room about him. In the American one, the door goes open and everyone's just stood watching him, and then one of them takes a picture.
That's what I mean. They take everything to the extreme when it doesn't need to be. It's sometimes the simplicity of a scene that makes it so effective and so funny.
I think we'll be talking a lot about the in-betweeners because that's still to come later on, and talk about what we see in this show. But what the US version brings is absolutely nothing compared to the original.
Well, it brings paedophile Jay.
Well,
I think it is one of those shows that it's kind of so bad it kind of can make you laugh. But it's
Do you know what's heartbreaking? Do you know who directed the pilot episode?
Was it the original?
No, Taika Waititi.
Really?
No.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Which is incredible.
Do you know who wrote it? Brad Copeland, who was one of the writers on Arrested Development.
Wow.
So they went all out when it came to actually.
Yeah, they tried to make it a success. They had some actors in there that were quite established as well. I can't quite remember, but I think one of them was in The Office, or the US version of The Office.
It's just
I can't believe the Taika Waititi thing, because everything he's done after that, you think of Thor, Jojo Rabbit, and all that, really fantastic comedy.
A lot of those UK shows that go over to the US, they normally come with a big budget and a big name writer or director. Another one I can think of is anyone ever seen the US version of Skins?
I think I've seen a bit of it, but couldn't get into it.
That came with a big budget and big names, but it was utterly terrible. I don't know. It's just, I think American TV execs need to learn to not, for the most part, invest in UK IPs because they just don't fit.
Yeah, the comedy is so different. I mean, it can be kind of transferable. If you look at The Office US, The Office UK, that's an example of it working because I think that it's relatable because they have offices in America as well, and they have characters like they have David Brent type characters in America. Like, just because it was good in England doesn't mean it's going to be good in America. You have to think about it and think, would this comedy transfer and translate properly? And in this case, no.
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, we'll probably talk about this later, but In-Betweeners was real. You've heard or done it yourself, like a bad experience that the In-Betweeners have.
No, we don't want to talk about this too early.
Oh no, sorry, yeah.
Save it for the actual In-Betweeners. Yeah. But should we put this in Catwoman and move on?
I think we should. I think we have to. I think it'd be. I think it's bad.
I feel a bit harsh on Sex and the City now, putting it same tier as In-Betweeners. It was that bad, but yeah.
No, we have to. But Neil, what have you got next on?
How about something good? Parks and Recreation. That's a good show. A fantastic cast of characters that grew over time with, really fleshed out relationships and motivations, character development that really made the show a show that didn't rely very heavily at all on its plot lines, but built a really solid foundation from all that interpersonal drama.
So when I was watching this show, I kind of felt like it seemed like a bit of an Office ripoff. What do you think about that?
What season did you watch? Because it does only get good.
No. To be fair, I have not watched anywhere near as many episodes as you have, Neil. But the episode I did watch, it feels a bit of an Office ripoff. I'm not saying it's bad. It's funny, and I like the different characters. But there was a part of me that I felt like that. I think the episode I watched was like The End of the World or something.
I think Parks and Recreation has got one of the most influential characters in modern sitcom history in Ron Swanson. Personally,
yeah,
I think he's he's hilarious. Everything he does, Nick Offerman took that role and he absolutely flew with it.
Oh no, there was one scene in the episode I was watching yesterday. It's Aziz Ansari. It was The End of the World party, and he was with his friends, and his friend invited his girlfriend or the girl that he likes. And he's like, "Oh, you invited her just for me," and then he cuts away to the camera. He says, "To be honest, I was just trying to hit that." Oh, I just burst out laughing. Oh, it's so I haven't done it justice, but that was hilarious.
I mean, you also have to think about one of the greatest characters of all time in Little Sebastian. If anyone talks ill of Little Sebastian, you'll have the might of 1,000 armies against you.
Who's Little Sebastian?
Angus.
Oh, yeah, Neil.
Isn't he he's just a tiny horse? What's this?
Get out.
Horse?
Get out. Ron Swanson has only cried twice. Once when he was hit by a bus and the other when Little Sebastian died.
I think to go back to Paddy's point about how he felt it's an Office ripoff. It is created by the same creators as the US Office, so there's a reason why you're getting that vibe.
I'm probably being a bit harsh saying it's an Office ripoff, but I just got that kind of vibe from it.
Yeah, well, that was its overwhelming opinion that was based on it from season 1. Season 2's when it sort of takes on the life of its own and becomes what it is that everyone loves, especially because they add what are the names of them? Well, they add Rob Lowe and Adam Scott into the show after this. Yeah, and it literally improves the show 100%.
Yeah, I quite like Rob Lowe's comedic acting. I think it's quite good.
There's a few really good. Was Aziz Ansari really a thing before Parks and Rec? It certainly made Chris Pratt's career.
I think he might have been some sort of stand-up comedian.
It certainly made Chris Pratt a bigger deal. Some of the things. Who else? Who played April?
Chris Pratt's way funnier in like the stuff he's done. Like,
oh no, but some of his improv work in this is absolutely hilarious. Like, I've heard of times when they've actually had to cut because the director's been laughing.
I think I've actually seen like some blooper clips of that. I've seen some blooper clips and I've seen him. He's quite funny. But
it's a famous quote by one of the writers. He says like his favorite joke in Parks and Rec is where Chris Pratt goes, I've typed your symptoms onto the computer, Leslie, and it's telling me that you have network connectivity problems. And that's an improv line. It's like, it's my favorite joke on the show, and none of us wrote it.
I was going to say, how annoying must it be to be a writer and the best joke is written by someone else?
I think most of the best jokes are improv as well, because sometimes you get authentic reactions from the other characters. And
like I said,
quite funny.
To me, Ron Swanson is probably one of the most influential characters of modern sitcom. Like, I think the show's really good. I do really enjoy it. I think this is great, personally.
I personally said this is Golden Globe. This is just an absolutely fantastic show.
It is hilarious. Neil, what are you thinking? You're the one who brought this up.
Oh, I was gonna say great. Golden Globe would be fair enough. It's a really great show.
Great characters, great atmosphere around it. The whole thing really, and it actually progresses.
I think it would be fair if we put it in great. We don't want to overrate something.
Oh, I don't think we'd be overrated. I think it's great, like, but I certainly wouldn't like start whinging if it went to Golden Globe.
Well, now we've got a dilemma. We've got to pick one.
Fine.
3 of you voted great. I've put it in great.
Well, me and Neil. Well, Neil was kind of split, and Manga was kind of split, and my vote shouldn't really carry that much weight. I haven't seen as many episodes as you guys.
No,
it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
I'm going to say
put
great.
It great then.
So we are back on Collins. None in Golden Globe. Is that going to change?
You know what? I think I'm going to keep going on with my generic popular TV sitcoms with another one.
Okay.
How I Met Your Mother.
Okay.
I mean, this show, it reached its popularity because it started right as Friends finished, and it basically just got immediately declared as the heir to Friends. I personally love this show. This show's really funny to me. I think Marshall's one of the greatest characters, just as a person, in TV sitcom history, and but it has one of the worst endings a TV show's ever had.
Yeah, there's a lot of build up. You're thinking, how did he meet his mom? And then it's just a real letdown. But I hate the show. I hate the characters. I don't find it funny. I think Ted Mosby? That's his name? Yep. I think he's one of the most annoying characters in sitcom history.
I think he's the main character.
Yeah, exactly. And the only decent thing about the show is Neil Patrick Harris. I think he's a good actor, a good comedy actor, and I like his character. But everything else, I hate. I hate Lily and Marshall. I think their relationship is just so cringy and corny, and it's not. It doesn't bring comedy. As I said, Ted Mosby's one of the most annoying, whiny characters you're ever going to see, and I just don't like it.
You do not like Marshall and Lily's relationship because you are sad and alone.
Wow, that got dark.
I'm just gonna leave and cry.
I think you should. What a horrible thing to say.
What is wrong with Marshall?
He's just not very funny, is he?
Too tall, for my opinion.
Yeah, true. As a 5'9" man, I'm a bit jealous. But no, I don't find him very funny. I just don't find anything about the show really funny, apart from Neil Patrick Harris.
I could never get into it personally.
No.
I think I watched the season.
Completely forgot about Robin, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where it's just like
we meant to.
What does she bring? Nothing. She doesn't add anything extra. I mean, she has that thing, that sort of love triangle thing, but in terms of comedy, I'm not seeing much there.
I've let Paddy talk too much here. Neil, I'm scared to bring this topic over to you after the after your main topic for Big Bang Theory was sexism against women, and I've given you a show that has Barney Stinson in.
Oh, I'm getting ready for this.
Nah. Come on. I feel like I've already exhausted my lot on that angle. You know, there's probably lots of shows that can apply to. You know, when it applies to like the show in particular, I'll mention it. But to be honest, I actually haven't seen much of the show. Probably not as much as you guys have. When I have watched it, I found it okay. Never enough to drag me into watching it properly. And, you know, everybody knows about the ending, right? So, I mean, for me, I don't really have a strong opinion, but it's never seemed more than mediocre.
Oh yeah, I can't. It's average for me, to be honest with you. I've never really enjoyed it. I've never really gotten past the first couple of seasons. It's just something that's never stuck by me. I'd say I'd compare it myself to my opinion of Friends, really.
Oh, it's so much lesser of a show than Friends. It's actually, that number doesn't exist on the scale.
It's so much better than Friends. It's got a great friendship between the group that actively supports each other, unlike the Friends group, who
I'm just gonna go find a pillow and scream into it really loudly so I don't exhaust my anger here. I'm putting it Catwoman, and I know I'm gonna get outvoted, but that's what I'm putting it because I hate the show.
To me, it's great. It's a fantastic show. Barney, you want to talk about iconic characters, is more of an iconic character than Ron Swanson. I think that was a weird thing to say, that Ron Swanson was iconic. I think he's a fan favorite, but he's not like, no one's trying to recreate Ron Swanson. But
you can't. You literally can't. He's too good.
That could be a good thing. Unique.
Yeah, I've never wanted to be Barney Stinson, to be honest with you.
Well, I'd have, but for different reasons.
I'd have him as a mate, but I wouldn't want to be him.
I'll give you Ted is the weakest character of the four, but Marshall is just the most supportive friend in the world. We all need a Marshall in our life, and there's a lot more heart and emotions to the show. There's the entire storyline based on Marshall's dad dying and the group of friends coming together, helping him through that. There's the entire last season, I just want to should say, is appalling because of the fact that it's entirely based on a wedding that they say 5 minutes into the last episode they got divorced in.
Yeah.
But everything beforehand adds to the show. I think every season there was a question of, is the mother gonna get revealed this time? But again, I think it's great, but with the way that the last season went, I understand if you want to put it in average.
I don't think comedy-wise it's lesser than a Big Show or an In-Betweeners US, but I just find the characters so irritating. I just there's something about the show really irritates me. That's why I'm putting it in Catwoman.
I'm gonna say average, but personally.
I think it balances out to kind of an average.
I think it's an average. Neil, what are you thinking?
Neil,
I don't really have a very strong opinion, but I'd probably put it somewhere bad or average.
Oh.
Yeah,
so that's probably average then.
For average,
right? I think Golden Globe's looking quite lonely at the top. I think I need to get my vote in. I am going with my Golden Globe, which is Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
What a show.
One of the best shows. One of the best introductions for a character in Frank Reynolds, a.k.a. Danny DeVito. What is great about this show is that, but there's one thing I could say is, in a lot of sitcoms, you could say it's kind of the same. They end up something bad happening, they're sorting stuff out, and it ends great. Can you name me like a few Always Sunny episodes where it ends out working in their favour?
No, because that would be funny.
Yeah, there are. So me and Paddy were looking before, like doing some research at the best 15 Always Sunny episodes, and even then I was like, why isn't such and such here? Why isn't such and such here? Like, I don't think I can really pick my favorite episode just because there's so many.
There are so many episodes, and it's the longest running sitcom of all time. I think 15 years or something like that, and that itself says a lot for a sitcom to run for that long and still be funny and still transfer to current day.
And there's also some things that are so like brave in a sense to do, like getting Mac to come out as gay, even though at the beginning he was like this sort of macho man.
Yeah, and I love the way they do it. I love the way they do it so like nonchalant. Like I don't know. I love the way. I love how unserious the show is. I love that there's like no serious moments.
Also the devolution of cricket.
Oh, I think he's like, apart from the main characters, he's the best side character. I think there's an episode that's purely focusing on him, and it's one of the best episodes in my opinion. It's hilarious.
But you've got, who else have you got, like, in terms of side characters? You've got the McPoyles, you've got well, yeah. Bill Ponderosa, you've got the Making a Murderer spin-off with Maureen.
I love the evolution/devolution of cricket, like
from a priest,
from just this priest who's well respected, well put together, to just like a one-eyed
someone who eats lemons just for sustenance.
It's incredible. Like I think that's fantastic.
I think me and Paddy spoken a bit about this. We need yours. Yeah.
Right, man. You know the whole point was that Mac was always gay, right?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, at first it was like, oh, the only reason he came out as gay is to get that $10,000, was it, from the
yeah, that's the joke. It's like, of course it takes something completely stupid to make him come out.
But
he's always gay though.
What I would also say to that is the end of season 12, was it, the dance?
Yeah. To get
his dad to accept him, and his dad doesn't accept him.
I think that's the only one of the only serious moments of the show.
And to me, it was beautiful about it.
Yeah,
it's the most hated moment in Always Sunny history, because as you are right, it is a beautiful moment, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have done it, but it is the complete opposite of everything what Always Sunny stands for.
Well, I think you need to do that. You need to make that change once in a while. Like, they also had some good moments in that episode as well. It's not like it was all serious.
Yeah, I mean, that's the brand of the show, is that it's really unrealistic and really doesn't take itself seriously in one bit, and that's the brand of the show. But I think to occasionally throw in, like every few seasons, maybe a little subtle serious moment, it can work, and I think it did.
Dee having a child, stuff like that, like,
yeah, that's not that serious. That's not the way they did it.
But
Dee had a child. Into a game as they tried to figure out which one of them knocked her up.
An actual bird.
Yeah, I love it.
You were talking about, like, there were so many, like, probably the top 15. I bet my favorite episode isn't in that top 15. Because my favorite episode is the one where they're parodying the awards.
Which one?
The bar awards.
Which one? I'm trying to think which one that is.
It's the one where where they why don't we ever win a bar award?
Yeah. And they're all
to all the other bars and go to all the other bars and remember, hey, you can't have more than one black bartender. That makes it a black bar, and black bars don't win awards.
When everyone's like, high five, everyone, like that. No, one of my favorites is Frank's Little Beauties. How defensive he gets all the time makes me howl. Like, Danny DeVito was the perfect addition to it. Like, you could say that probably the first season was the weakest, even though it had probably one of the most influential periods in The Gang Finds a Dead Body. But his introduction just added a completely new element to it as well. Like, he was meant to be the upper class man who was turned upside down. And
if you hear about the story of how Danny DeVito got recruited for that show, it was like they were going to get taken off the air if they didn't bring like a big name in to try and boost the show, and they didn't want to get Danny DeVito, but they had to, otherwise the show would have gone off air. And to be honest, it's the best thing that's ever happened to the show because it just took the show to a new level. He's a brilliant comedy actor, and his character's brilliant in the show.
Well, they always talk about with Danny DeVito, they purposely try and put Frank Reynolds in the most awkward and ridiculous situations possible, just to see if he'll do it.
And he does.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, it's a great sport for it. Like,
oh yeah,
coming out naked on a couch is something else.
And there's literally there's a scene at the start of one of the. I don't know if I should talk about this, man. There's a scene at the start of it where they literally walk into the pub and like Frank's hanging from a noose or whatever.
Oh my God.
And they're literally just like, yeah, Frank's just trying to kill himself. But he's but I don't know, but it's just the stupidity of that. It's just so funny to me. I just love his physical comedy.
Neil, what's your opinion? Have you seen it before? It's Always Sunny.
Yeah. I don't really know what to add. You guys have been gushing over it now for a while. I would just be gushing over it too. It's quirky and weird in a very endearing way that makes it an awesome show to watch. It's
all right. We've said our piece. Neil, what is your favourite episode of it then? We've said kind of our stuff.
No. There's so many to choose from.
If you had to pick one like immediately on the spot, like
nah, I couldn't.
Oh, you couldn't.
Maybe I'd pick the one where the Nightman comes. I like that one. There's a lot that I'm not thinking about. The prom.
That's another side character.
The prom episode is great. Yeah. You know what's hilarious? Is when we find out his name's Ronald McDonald.
Ronald McDonald.
Oh my God! I did not see that coming. I was such a funny moment. I was howling at that, but yeah, great show.
I've just thought of a couple more side characters. The waitress and Charlie's mum as well.
Yeah,
Matt's mum.
No doubt. And if you think, actually, this is a story about how the show came about. Is because they were trying to. They just came after Friends finished, so they're trying to create something as big as that, but it was different. And so they thought about like the song for Friends, which is "I'll Be There for You," and so they wanted to create basically a group of friends who the opposite. They'll never be there for you. So that's kind of the concept, and it works.
Right, I think we've done enough gushing over this. I'm putting this Golden Globe. Does anyone disagree?
I think we're all going to.
I think it's
one
of the best shows in a while.
I'm happy to put a Golden Globe.
But now, who are we on? We're on to Patrick next. What have you got for his champ?
You know what? Let's talk about Father Ted. If we're talking about great sitcoms,
wow.
I don't think much beats this. Just the constant laugh out loud moments that you get from it, the quirkiness and the stupidness of the show that just makes it brilliant. The character of Dougal, just one of the funniest characters you'll see, even though it's just a brain dead character, simple, concept. It's just a hilarious character. And it's just a hilarious show.
Like you said, you can't really beat him. He's I don't think you can really beat many of them. Really, I think there's no real bad characters in it. I think there is characters even in an episode like make such a positive impact. Like what's his name, the milkman, who goes around the Craggy Islands.
I can't remember. But is that the one where he can't take his foot off the accelerator?
He can't go under 5 miles an hour.
So he has to keep going round and round. Just his facial expressions showing the whole that. Oh.
And the only thing they can think of is to do a mass.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and everything sounds funnier in an Irish accent. It's just such a great accent. It's just brilliant. The comedy sounds just better in an Irish accent. I love the show.
I've listened to. I've watched Mrs. Brown's Boys.
Oh, you've been caught out there, son.
Let's not get into that.
I don't want to say anything too controversial. I want to say I thought Mrs. Brown's Boys was okay.
Ooh.
I thought it was okay.
You don't like yourself, do you?
I don't like myself for it. That's the problem. It's what it is. But yeah, let's keep on Father Ted.
Yeah, everything about Father Ted can be summarised in the words. So, Father, I hear you're a racist now.
Oh, that scene.
Oh, it's incredible. It's comedy at its best, that scene.
The thing is, the woman as well, she reminds me of like racist today. Go on, father! They're taking our jobs!
She starts literally just like shaking and just like shaking her bags about like,
like you could easily see that on Twitter today, some racist woman in America talking about people taking our jobs and stuff like that.
I mean, but that's what it is. That's what comedy is. It's just exaggerating things that kind of are relatable and kind of do happen sometimes. But this show like exaggerates them to the max, and it's brilliant. It's, I would say, ahead of its time. Like it came out in like the 90s or whatever, and it's still, which is not that long ago, but I still think it's ahead of its time.
They would have made more, if you hadn't passed.
No,
I'm sure they were talking about.
You know, I tell you what,
already announced it as the end.
What the weirdest, what's really weird about that show is that he died like the day after they filmed the last ever episode. I just think that's so strange.
And even weirder, Father Jack died on the same day 20 years later.
It's so strange. It's just so weird, isn't it? It's like, some things happen though in life that are just weird. But I'm glad that he got long enough in life to portray that character, because he did a brilliant job. He given us so many funny scenes that
the morally bankrupt priest, if there is such a thing.
Oh, the priest that's like he's a Nazi. It tells like he's like a Nazi.
There's so many.
Yeah, like he goes in and he tells Nazi memorabilia.
Yeah, no, it's not Nazi memorabilia. It's war memorabilia. You don't mention the Nazi.
Oh yeah, no. But I love that just no two episodes are the same. The humor, it's not repetitive. It's sharp, quick, laugh out loud moments after laugh out loud moments hitting you constantly, and that's the perfect sitcom for me.
Yeah, I think you can end up shaping off as the fact that Radio Times in a poll last year has it rated as the number 2 UK sitcom of all time, only behind Fawlty Towers, which I suppose if you're going to finish behind something, that's a pretty good one to finish behind. And Dougal, in the 2001 poll by Channel 4, was rated the 5th greatest TV character.
Agreed.
I mean, I would agree. He's just something else. Like, you can't really beat him.
Like, even though the whole brain dead thing, it's used quite a lot in comedy, and it sometimes can be unrealistic, it's just done in a way that it's acted so well. it's just so silly and so stupid, but it's hilarious at the same time.
Yeah. Neil, any last thoughts?
It's a great show, and you guys know the writer went on to write the IT Crowd and be a terrible person, like I said.
Is it the same writer?
Yeah, it is.
Well, he's a very talented guy.
As awful as he is.
I was thinking, because it is kind of a similar style of comedy, where it's constant hard hitting humor, but it's just very stupid humor, but it's like overacted, but in the right way. So you kind of see that, but it's incredible. Like, obviously he's very talented, but also not a very good person by the looks of it. But you got to separate yourself from that.
Yeah.
When looking at the show.
Yeah, I think we're all going to vote Golden Globe, right?
You would say
Golden Globe. Yeah, for sure. I put Golden Globe.
As long as you collect it.
No, we aren't. That's Golden Globe. Graham Linehan is Catwoman at best. Probably lower.
Well, from a writing perspective, not. But from a human being's perspective, yes.
All right, then. I think then we go to Neil. What's your next choice?
How about the UK Office? There's a good one.
Interesting.
Okay.
Obviously, an extremely, extremely, extremely influential show, and its style has influenced a lot of the shows we've mentioned already. It's a great show that juxtaposes the mundane life with stupid situations and a cool cast of characters to create something that's pretty awesome and endearing, and also bleak in that British way.
I do think if there's one thing you got to respect about the show, it's the influence of it. If you think about like how many shows it's influenced, you think about how big The Office was in the US. You think about the characters and the celebrities created, like John Krasinski, Steve Carell, people that have come from that. I think it's an incredible concept. The character of David Brent is an incredible comedy character. In terms of the overall show, for me, the pacing of it, it's a little slow for me, but I think some of the humor is very good, very clever. I like Ricky Gervais. Maybe the first season is not as good as the second season, but overall, I think it's decent.
I think you have to give credit where credit's due as well to Stephen Merchant because he co-wrote it. We can't just all pin it as talented as Ricky Gervais is. Stephen Merchant put in a great shift on that as well. I always find it difficult to grade stuff like the UK Office because you'd think that it was in the US Office shadow in a sense after the impact that has had as well. Like, if you were an American, would you think there was a UK Office to begin with? I wouldn't. You wouldn't think that, would you?
Well, in my opinion, the US Office is better.
Yeah, I think the UK Office is a lot more awkward in a sense. Like, I think there's like moments where you go, oh, but there's also moments when you laugh out loud, like David Brent dancing, him and his blind date.
Same time, the US Office though, it went on for a lot longer, so it had much more chance to grow. Yeah, like if the UK Office had more series, it may have grown into something that was actually bigger than the US Office.
Yeah, it's true. There were only 14 episodes of it at the end of the day.
Yeah,
that's the UK for you. And I figure I'm gonna get my piece in because I feel I need to say it. I hate the UK Office and I don't like the US Office. I hate cringe comedy just as a concept. I don't like to feel but while laughing. And David Brent is the worst character in my opinion on any character in this list of all these TV shows that we've got. David Brent is the character I hate the most.
I mean, looking at some of the other sitcoms there, I think that's a bit of an insult.
I like him as a character. I think he's a great comedy character because it's kind of relatable. There's so many people out there like that kind of think they're cooler than they are.
If I ever relate to David Brent, I want you guys to shoot him.
I'm not saying like we relate to him, but I think that we know that there are a lot of people like that in life that think they're cooler than they are, and they're actually just really awkward, but they don't know it. But it makes for great comedy, and I do like cringe humor. I don't love the UK Office because it's a little slower pace for me. The jokes don't come as thick and fast, but I can appreciate some of the comedy, having watched it a few times.
Neil?
It depends. It depends heavily how much you like that kind of cringe humor, doesn't it? Really, if you don't like, you're not gonna like it. If you like cringe, then you'll probably really love the show. Either way, though, you've got to respect.
You've got to respect the impact, of course.
Shall we vote on this?
I'd say it's decent. It's average, you know.
The
shows that influenced were better than the show itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'd put it average because I don't think it's bad. But as you said, the shows that it influenced are better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I probably agree. I think it's awkward. I think it's cringy, but at the same time, it does have its moments, like the dance off, like going out for the first date and everything like that. I think they're all off the points, and the big will they, won't they? That inspired Jim and Pam.
True. Probably maybe the best TV sitcom couple.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think average.
Yeah, Catwoman for me. I'll put it in average.
Can't have our own way.
Say that without gritted teeth, Colin.
That's not as heartbreaking as Friends. Who's it next?
It is back to Collins, is it?
Yeah, it is Collins, yeah.
All right. In that case, I think I'm going to talk about a show that I don't understand as a concept, and that's anger management. The first scene in this show is Charlie Sheen looking at the camera, saying, "You can't fire me, I quit," and punching something. He then says something else along that regards, and punches it, and punches again. That's how they started the show. Anger management as a concept is literally just to stroke Charlie Sheen's ego as he left 2.5 Men and was doing his first TV show since he left it. Again, in another episode, he goes to a shop wearing a bowling shirt, like he'd always wear on 2.5 Men. And the character goes, "Oh, that's absolutely hideous. That's horrific. Why would you ever wear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't think I'll ever wear something like this again," and takes the shirt off.
Well, the first episode that I watched, it was funny you say this, because it starts with like a 2-minute scene of him doing a therapy session, obviously an anger therapy session, and then it goes on to do the rest of the show, which has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's just like, okay, it's like the writers have gone, okay, we've covered the premise of the show in the first 2 minutes. Now let's just do what we want with the rest of it. So the premise doesn't really make a lot of sense. There were a couple of moments that I did find quite funny in the show. Overall, it wasn't very funny, and I think Charlie Sheen's delivery is quite robotic, and you can tell he's taken a lot of drugs over the years with his mumbly voice. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, no, there was a scene which made me laugh where he comes down to his mate and he says, "I think I've just slept with someone that I shouldn't have," and then just a goat just walks in the room. I don't know, like, it's just the timing of that. I don't know, I just found it quite funny. Like, there are little snippets that do kind of make you laugh a bit.
Yeah.
But overall,
to be fair, it did have exactly 100 episodes because it got signed to make it to syndication, because everyone thought, oh, Charlie Sheen on his return TV series, that's definitely going to make it. So the first season had 20 episodes. The second season had 80.
Oh
now, eventually, they got split into a second, third, fourth, and fifth season to make it seem like more reasonable when you go on Amazon Prime to watch this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how bad the first season did. They made the second season all 80 episodes, but just the entire and it's filled with so many errors in terms of writing. Like you said, they do a therapy session for the first 2 minutes, and then they leave that. But the entirety of the episode appears to be a scene, and then another scene that's not really related, and then another scene that's kind of related, but more related to the first one, and then another scene. It just feels like it goes from scene. None of the characters also feel connected in any way, despite the fact that they definitely should. I don't believe that Charlie has a daughter. And just the awkwardness of making the daughter have OCD, but it's not relevant at all unless they feel like making it relevant in this episode.
I mean,
it's just all done for the sake of trying to be better than 2.5 Men without ever getting anything that 2.5 Men got right, even if you don't think 2.5 Men got a lot right.
I mean, honestly, looking at Charlie Sheen, I would believe he had a daughter. I believe he had a few kids, to be honest with you.
That he doesn't know about.
I didn't like Charlie Sheen at the best of times. So when this came out, I just saw it as one big cash grab after he left 2.5 Men. And it kind of smelled like it. I didn't like it personally. I thought this was bad. It grinds me gears. It's one of them.
I don't think it's Catwoman bad, but I'd say bad.
I think it's
because it has it. I say bad because it has its moments at times, which is why I want to put it bottom tier. But overall, it's not a good show, which is why I have to put it below average.
Neil, what do you think about this Man of Society?
Did anyone really expect like a Charlie Sheen vanity project to be any good?
I wasn't expecting an Emmy.
This is his like image rehabilitation program, right? Like after all the scandals involved, he creates a new show, thinks it's gonna be, everyone's gonna get into it and all that kind of stuff. But you could never expect it to be good. The characters are underdeveloped, they're pretty unbelievable, it's disjointed, and the worst crime of all is that, a good comedy should probably be judged on like how many laughs you get in like a certain time, like how many laughs you get per minute. This one has a very, very low amount because maybe 10% of the jokes land. It's a vanity project.
I think that's I think that 10% is generous as well.
Yeah, I think
Neil.
you can see the input Charlie Sheen's had with it, because if you look at some of the names of the episodes, there's a lot of names with sex in the title. So you can literally see the influence he's had on the show, as you said, a vanity project.
Every episode is Charlie does something. That's as the episode title. You can sort of say like a lot of TV shows obviously have their way of of always being similar. Obviously, Friends is famous with it being the one that or the one with, but like Charlie has blah 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 is everything. It's entirely meant to be based around him. I mean and you look at the characters he surrounds himself as. There's all the his anger management people where he's helping them become better people. There's his best friend, sex co-worker / therapist, which is just a weird scenario to have imagined himself in. Like he's a therapist who got into it after getting therapy, after getting kicked out of baseball. He decides that he falls in lust with his therapist. They become friends. He no longer needs therapy, so they're having sex. Then he decides that he needs therapy, but it'd be unethical for me to have sex with you and also give you therapy. All right, then, what if I also give you therapy? How does that work?
I mean, in Charlie Sheen's mind, it does. Got to give him credit. He believes his own hype. But
$2 million per episode he got for that.
What?
Wow.
I mean, you all you can say is fair play to him. Like 2 million episode for that. That's incredible. How many episodes did he do? He must have made 100. He must have made a bank from that. Jesus.
I mean, come on, Paddy, you can do maths here. What's 2 million
I
times
know
100?
He made 20 million. God's sake. Yeah, I'm joking.
Pardon?
I'm joking.
I literally.
I thought that was obvious enough to be a joke.
I'm going to say this is Catwoman.
Oh.
I'm going to say bad.
You know what? I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree.
This fails as a show, never mind as a comedy.
Neil.
Friend. That's tough, isn't it? You see, I kind of have this might be my vendetta against celebrities doing vanity projects that earn them a load of money for producing an awful show. It's probably Catwoman, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I
feel like I'm the odd one out, and everyone today.
Welcome to the club.
Fair enough.
Right. Speaking of which, Paddy, you're up, sunshine.
I'm up.
Wait. No. Oh God, no. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just really wanted to skip this one badly.
Oh, true.
Yeah. We're gonna keep on Catwoman because I want to look at the remake of Porridge. Now, when you compare it to the other sitcoms coming out when the original Porridge was coming out, so you got Open All Hours, Only Fools, stuff like that, Fawlty Towers. Ronnie Barker is a great comedic actor.
Comedy legend.
And it still wasn't, if I had to put it anywhere, it would probably be between grade to average anyway. This is a complete rip-off. It's meant to be his grandson, who does the exact same job in the prison itself. He's done a crime, I think it's cybercrime he does, to make it seem more modern. The characters are basically the same. I didn't laugh once during it. I'd heard great things about the original Porridge, and I thought, they're going to do something different with it. It's just, and the guy's trying too hard to be Ronnie Barker, like from the fake accent to the mannerisms that he provides.
Yeah, Kevin Bishop's performance is such a copycat version of Ronnie Barker, and you should never try and copy someone who's like a comedy legend.
A peasant shouldn't try and copy a king.
Ooh, very harsh, but probably true.
I couldn't. There's no way.
If you think about how funny Ronnie Barker is, like this is a scene from a show, right? He's having an argument with a woman he doesn't like, okay? And then this bank robber comes in, grabs the woman, puts a gun to her head, and says, "Nobody move, or I'm gonna shoot this woman." And he just starts like jumping about, like moving. So it's genius comedy. It's hilarious, and it just doesn't hit home in the same way. It shouldn't have tried to be copied or replaced, and it does a bad job of it.
I mean, I think A lot of remakes are quite usually misses. You might have that one gem, such as The Office and stuff like that. But I think the majority of remakes,
it's never as good as the original.
And sometimes it just gets even worse.
Yeah. Well, most of the time.
Sorry, Neil, what?
No. I was just going to say, is it fair to say this is a remake that nobody asked for?
Yes.
No, because it became a remake because it got aired as a one-off special and that got high views. This literally was kind of asked for. Viewers watched the one-off special and then realized, oh dear, we should not have watched the one-off special because we've got this abomination created now.
Yeah, I think the audience never knows what it really wants, to be honest. I don't think people really wanted this. I mean, you can't remake perfection. I'm not saying the other show was perfect, but it's clearly a brilliant show, known as one of the best in British history. Really, is Kevin Bishop going to be able to make something as good or better than Ronnie Barker? No. So I don't know why it was attempted.
There's literally no chance it is. Like we said, Ronnie Barker is comedy gold. He's gone down as one of the great British comedy actors and one of the best duos alongside Ronnie Corbett. But that's the thing, you cannot replace him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin Bishop's selling point as an actor is he's quite a good impressionist. I've heard him do other impressions of like Brian Blessed and that. So it's clear that he's tried to do kind of a direct impression of Ronnie Barker. But I don't know why you'd want to just copy someone like directly to make a new show. You kind of want to, if you're going to make a show that's old, make it new. You kind of want to take some of the good things from it but make it a bit different. You don't want to copy it exactly.
I completely agree. I think this is Catwoman. I can't see anywhere. This belongs at Catwoman.
It only had 6 episodes. It says a lot.
Yeah, it got cancelled immediately, didn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's 7 because that's the original special, which 5.38 million people watched.
Well, 5.38 million people are
wasted 20 minutes of their life.
Half an hour. It was on BBC.
Oh, half an hour. Yeah. No adverts.
Neil, what do you think about it? It's disgusting, really, for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's does it have any redeeming qualities, really?
It had 7 episodes.
Yeah, it ended quickly. That was that's redeeming.
Fair to say it's a Catwoman, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Easy one, that.
We've got 3 votes for it. It's going down. I've had 4 for 4 here. Everything which I've said is going in. I'm doing all right.
Well, I guess you've got good taste, but is it me next?
It is you next, speaking of good taste.
Well, listen, we're going to go from the bad to the ugly. I'm not talking about the 2 women in the show. They're not that bad. I'm talking about 2 broke girls. I'm talking about 2 broke girls, which is just the worst of comedy. I mean, we were watching the 2 broke girls
best bits
before. I mean, you'd think we clicked on worst bits. It was horrendous. I mean, the whiny comedic delivery of the two female lead actors in it is really annoying. Just the poor writing, poor comedy, the generic humor, the repeated jokes. It's just awful.
Can I surprise you guys with something? So I was doing my research on it. I was going through Wikipedia, as you do, really strong stuff. This won an Emmy.
Quite a niche Emmy.
This won an Emmy.
Yeah, what for?
Oh, so why'd you say that?
It was like a really long title, one of those really.
It was like multi-camera audience segment or whatever it was.
There you go. It won an Emmy for cinematography, which if it's for a sitcom, is actually quite impressive.
Not for this.
It's a colourful show.
I mean, is it, or is that just the shirts?
Probably just the yellow shirt. I mean, I'm trying to clutch at straws here. It's terrible.
It's really a shame because I actually quite like Kat Dennings. We've actually talked about some previous work of Kat Dennings. You may know her as Darcy in 4.
In what?
What a random casting choice.
4.
Oh, wow. Really?
From our first episode, mate.
First
thought. Oh, wow.
She played Natalie Portman's like co-worker or something like that.
Oh.
The intern.
Yeah.
Yeah, That completely went over my head. That.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a very prominent character.
Yeah.
Or a character that we needed, but it was there.
one of those characters that got quickly forgotten about when they semi-rebooted them in for Ragnarok.
Pretty much.
I was going to say or asked for.
Yeah.
Neil, please enlighten us on this one. Give it some redemption.
Oh, really? I was going to talk about its racist approach to.
No, this show is racist.
Not exactly redeemable, but Hanley, basically the let's be honest here, token Asian guy in the show, really, has every single negative Asian stereotype associated with him. Like being like some education-minded workaholic dude who's, quite small and has a small penis, that sort of stuff. Every single Asian stereotype that you could imagine. And, the crass jokes associated with that, like, one joke where they forget that he's Korean and say he's Chinese. And supposedly that's very funny. Or, suggesting that he can't pronounce his L and R. Because, hey, in the 2010s, that's supposed to be funny.
I mean, one thing I will ask you, Neil, is it worse than Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Mate, I have to admit, I'm not familiar with the movie.
When he literally does an Asian accent and everything. He's meant to be an Asian landlord.
Oh, good lord. Mickey Rooney played an Asian landlord.
Yes.
Oh,
in one of the most influential shows of all time, influential movies rather of all time.
That is something I am going to watch on YouTube when I can, and then sit there horrified that happened. But hey, Breakfast at Tiffany's is a fairly old movie now. What this is from the 2010s. This is horrific. I can't
believe it lasted for a few years. I thought this was a 2-year job.
Attractive women as the main characters.
But it's not all you want to see.
I feel like I have a very important thing to say. You do realise who wrote this, right?
Was it Charlie Sheen?
No, it was Michael Patrick King, who you may know from his work on Sex and the City.
Oh no! Behave.
I am serious. Michael Patrick King wrote most of the season premieres and finales for Sex and the City. He also wrote both films. No, he directed both films.
I heard the films are great, but that was from me mum, so what does she know? Like, I can't believe that. Actually, part of me can believe it. More I think about it.
I can very much believe it. It's a show that's meant to be about empowering women. Is it really?
Does nothing of the sort. What is the character development in this, really? Where is it?
Who cares?
I mean,
who cares about the show? It's just a terrible show. That there's not even worth talking about character development and that. If it's not funny, then nothing else matters.
I mean, should we even bother voting? Is this going anywhere but Catwoman?
Yeah, it's going below Catwoman.
It's actually, Collins, take out Catwoman because that's a disservice. Put in 2 broke girls.
No, I'm not doing that.
That is a
category, mate. I get to know what the tiers are.
Disservice. Right.
Catwoman is truly horrific.
2 broke girls isn't. Imagine 2 Halle Berrys in that role.
Would have made a better basketball game.
I mean, oh no! Oh my god!
Let's not get into the basketball scene. What an offense to like Mike that scene was.
I am reading the character descriptions. The opening line for the Ukrainian cook at the diner is he sexually harasses Max and Caroline.
Oh my god!
How would you describe this character? Sexual harassment.
Have you actually heard the guy who plays the guy? He's like an impressionist in real life. Actually, very, very good impressionist. Just a side note there, but he's more talented than that show deserves. That guy.
Right. I think we should move on because it scares me enough, this show. Neil, what have you got for us?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Okay. Okay, deep breath. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is another disgraceful cop show presented by the capitalist machine to make us think the police are our friends and not the tyrannical defenders of capitalism. Defund the police.
Okay.
So, please take what I just said with, a pinch of salt. It's actually a fairly funny show. I'm just putting out cop shows in 2020 rather touchy subjects now.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine's had some calls to be cancelled recently, hasn't it? Because, cops are, of course, the enemy of the working class these days. So, hey, but it's a pretty funny show at heart, so...
Neil, I would like to add something to that, really. I remember going on Facebook once, and there was a guy there, and he's very opinionated on things, he does no harm, to be honest with you, but he says a lot of stuff that could be considered controversial. And he said that Brooklyn Nine-Nine was a propaganda machine to make people join the police.
I suppose if you could take it like that. I mean, every cop show is kind of like, they always present cops as the good guys, don't they?
I was going to say, except in The Wire.
Yeah, I mean, it does portray being a cop as being fun and not that serious, which you should take that with a pinch of salt. Of course, it's a comedy. You should know that it's not being serious. Like, that's how being a cop actually is.
People do not have sex next to the cops.
Well, yeah. Well,
hopefully not.
You don't know what people. But anyway, I think it's a pretty decent show. I like Andy Samberg's style of comedy. It's quite fast paced. I liked him. I first saw him in Cuckoo. He randomly in that show, but he was quite good in that show. To be honest, it's the best thing about that show. And his comedic acting was good from then. And I like it. And I like his fast-paced style of comedy where it's, the show really flows. It doesn't make me laugh out loud as much as a lot of the other shows on this list, but it's pretty funny and pretty clever.
I still enjoy it. I think it usually builds up quite well towards an ending. Like, it has about 3 or 4 episodes that lead up to the end of it. Like, when they were dealing with, what was his name? Eric Roberts played him, the big bad guy, and they went to Florida for it. Completely forgotten his name. Someone help me out here, guys.
I'm thinking as well.
Which one are you on about?
When they went to Florida for witness protection from... Please.
Wait, are you talking about the character in the show? Or?
Yeah, the character in the show. I know Eric Roberts plays him.
Oh, I don't know.
But I'm trying.
We can Google it.
Okay.
Fill some time.
Yeah, in the time, I'd like to talk to you about the Big Show. I cannot talk.
I will talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Personally, you're talking about the last of the season. I actually think the beginning and the ends of the seasons are the worst parts of this show. They try and stretch out a really dramatic plot that they don't introduce until the end, but they try and make it out to be some massive climax when you've had 15 episodes of them just doing comedy. It doesn't work for me. Especially because they'll start the next season with them going over, here's the after effects. And then after about 4 episodes, there's no after effects anymore. Along with that, I think you're entirely right, Paddy. That in terms of because this is part of essentially the Greg Holland, not Greg, the Michael Shaw family of created shows. Obviously, he's a creator in Parks and Rec and the US Office. It's definitely the weakest I feel of it, and I say that as someone who doesn't like the US Office in terms of comedy. I think in terms of the characters, I think are the best. I think they deliver important messages the best out of them all as well. I could not imagine Michael Scott trying to deliver having a conversation like Andy Samberg's character will have with what's she called, the main woman,
Amy of Santiago.
Like when when Jake talks to Amy about sexual harassment in the workplace. Could you imagine Michael Scott trying to have that conversation?
That would last about 10 minutes and would result in a slap.
That would be funny though.
Well, actually, we can imagine how he'd have that conversation. He literally kisses Oscar.
True. Oh yeah, God.
It's like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is it's the best at like trying to talk about important things, and it does have funny moments. It's not as good as like Parks and Rec.
No, it's not on that level.
No,
and it's not going to make you laugh out loud constantly like a lot of the other shows, but it has its place. It's a worthy watch. It's worth being on the air. It has funny moments. It's fairly well written. It's fairly well acted. Why I put it at average, sort of decent.
It's got more heart than probably every other show on this list, I think.
More what?
Heart.
More heart.
Okay, I was gonna say. I was like, "Where's this going?"
It's got more heart than like every other show on this list, but and it's something that I watch, but it's not something that it's not something that I sit down and sit down while I'm having my lunch, and I have an enjoyable 20 minutes while having a sandwich.
It is one of those shows that you can just watch while you're having your lunch, quick 20 minutes, and then you move on. Like you wouldn't like binge watch it or anything like that. Well, I wouldn't think it would anyway, but yeah.
Neil, what do you think of it? Like, you're the one who brought it up. Like, how are we looking?
I agree with what you guys say. I think it's just pretty average, isn't it? It's all right, It's a decent watch, but it's not anything spectacular. I agree, it has a big heart, but I'd place it in average. That's how I'd put it.
All right.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that.
Okay. Right.
I'll tell you though, gives you a heart attack every time an episode starts with how blooming loud it is.
Oh yeah, it's quite
Just skip it immediately. That's literally what you do. Oh. But yeah, I think average we're getting on, and we are going to the last round of tiers now. So, Collins, what you got?
I have the best show on this list, and I actually lied when I said that Brooklyn Nine-Nine has the biggest heart, because that award goes to Community, the most wholesome group of friends, parodying a genre every episode, giving you the most laugh out loud moments possible and the most ridiculous storylines. Jeff, Annie, Shirley, Britta, Pierce, Abed and Troy are the best ensemble cast in comedy, and there's not a single thing wrong with this show. 6 seasons and a movie, please.
I think the episode we watched before, as I said, I love the way they parody.
Oh, wow.
They parody different genres. We watched the paintball episode, and just the way
one,
they.
Though?
The first one.
The first season.
Paintball one, yeah. It's in the first season. I just think it was brilliant the way they made they parody sort of action movies or Hunger Games type movies, if that's the right.
The thing is,
survival. What are they called? Those
action
survival horrors.
Definitely like Schwarzenegger.
Survival horrors. That's the one. Yeah.
Like, there's a particular quote that Troy said. He went, "What's up, you son of a bitch?" Like, it reminded me of Predator, like the original Predator, when he comes in and hugs him.
When Donald Glover. That scene where John McKay walks through the room and then Donald Glover, like, there's emotional music playing, he hugs him as if I just love the way they parody that concept with paintball, and they make a unserious concept so serious. I just think it's brilliant.
The first season starts trying to be a little more conventional, then after its half season break, it suddenly realized, wait, what if we just keep parodying these genres and taking the traditional concepts and turn them on their head, like say with the paintball. It's paintball. They parody action movies, and in season two, the paintball episode, it's a western, and then it turns into Star Wars, in just one of the most seamless, hilarious transitions I've ever seen.
Yeah, it definitely had to take a bit of time to find its feet, but once it found it.
Yeah,
brilliant. I love that concept of just a different episode, just parodying different things. Yeah, it's brilliant.
but at the end of the day, the core of this show is the group. This group just works so well together amongst each other, and all the credit in the world to Joel McHale, because he could have made that show all about him if he wanted to. It could have very much been it's Joel McHale's show and there's his co-stars. Instead, everyone is the star of the show.
Quite a big cast, actually. Quite a strong cast of people. And considering Joel McHale was in the US IT crowd,
yeah,
quite a step up. Fair play to him.
To be fair, that was the most stupid casting decision in the world. How do you go for the handsome Joel McHale, who's really cool and suave, and picture him as Roy from the IT crowd?
Yeah, that's a good point. They should have picked like whoever played Leonard in The Big Bang Theory or something like that. You know what I mean?
Neil, what are your thoughts on this on Community?
I'm not the biggest fan of sitcoms, to be honest, even though I'm sat here doing this podcast.
I was going to say, why are you here?
I don't watch them very regularly, and I certainly don't rewatch them. But I've rewatched Community 4 times through.
Wow.
So that, I think I can't really say more than that.
That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 times through, it's so incredible. I absolutely adore it. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. Like, if I could go on about the show all day, it's fantastic. I love its self-awareness, its variety, its characters. It's just so damn good.
Honestly, my favorite quote in the whole thing, and it's just so out of context as well, is, "I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at animal cruelty."
I think for this one, you two, Neil and Collins, you've clearly seen the show a lot more than us two.
Yeah.
So I think you should just vote on it, and we'll stay out of it because I don't think it will be fair.
No, I'm going to say gold. From what I saw,
it wouldn't be fair. You've seen one episode. Neil's seen it 4 times over. Just put it Golden Globe because obviously, clearly, you guys love it there, and I'm 100% gonna watch more because I love it.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
Right. So we're on to my last one. Okay. So Charles Dickens wrote a book called.
Where are we going with this?
Here we go. Stay with me. A Tale of Two Cities. The show I've picked, Arrested Development, is a tale of 2 different seasons. The first 3 seasons and the last 2. I thought the first 3 seasons of it were great. I thought it was hilarious. It had moments that really made me laugh out loud. I think the cast was great. The situations that they got in was hilarious, but still at the same time slightly real, but also a bit crazy, like Tobias being part of the Blue Man Group, stuff like that. And then they brought it back for another 2 seasons. I thought the perfect cut-off point was the end of season 3, and maybe, like Colin said with Community, a movie at the end to like tie it up all into not one night pretty knot. I think the last 2 seasons really sunk it. So, like, please feel free to join in at this point, because I think, that's what I think it's like.
Yeah.
Mangan, what's the opening line of A Tale of Two Cities?
Oh, Neil, what have you done to me, sunshine?
Well, to be fair, that was a very weird way to start your.
It was, but I wanted to spice it up. You know, we don't get enough education to this. Yeah.
I'll let you know what it is. It was the best of times.
No.
Worst of times.
The Age of Wisdom.
Of this show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I kind of Arrested Development kind of has you know Zombie Simpsons fever, where like the best season and everything after it is like a zombie version. Arrested Development has that. The first 3 seasons being utterly amazing, and the 2 since the revival being a zombified version of what it used to be.
The thing is, you had so much. You had the maybe, won't be, maybe not of maybe, and George Michael, which was like
even just something as simple as having the one of the characters called George Michael is hilarious. It's just something so simple as that.
like stuff like that. You had Michael Bluth trying to save his family whilst actually having a life after his wife had died. You had I've forgotten the name. Portia Rossi in it. Oh, what's the name?
Are you on about George Michael's girlfriend? Because that'd be really on point if you.
No, not Anne. Not Anne.
Rossi.
Oh no, not
Portia
Anne.
Rossi is Ellen DeGeneres'
God,
wife.
yeah, I loved Anne just because of how everyone treated her.
Well, you know the whole point of Anne was meant to be that it was going to be a different person playing her every episode, as part of the joke of wait, really, who are you? But the actress played such a good job. They decided, we'll keep it. I think I probably would have preferred it if it was a different person every episode for the sake of that joke.
Yeah, but you also I remember the name is Lindsay, aka I googled it. Like she was a spoiled brat, but at the same time she was like trying to do right by a kid. You had the patriarch of it all being arrested, and some of his funniest scenes are him in jail, like Love and Life, and honestly one of my favorite characters.
I've never felt more free. You're in jail.
one of my favorite characters being Lucille, who was so funny whilst being so cruel at the same time.
I love all my kids equally. 30 minutes ago, I don't care for Gobe.
Oh my God, Gobe as well. You got the magician.
They're illusions.
While he's dancing like awfully, and then he sleeps with Anne in the end.
How about Tobias Funke, an ulrapist?
Oh. I am the first analyst and therapist, an ulrapist, if you will.
But the thing when Michael says to him, "You really need like a tape recorder so you can hear some of the stuff you say."
Well, no, because he's got one of my favorite lines. Tobias is when he's talking with Lindsay about marriage counseling. It's like no, marriage counseling never works. It's two people coming together, trying to trick themselves into thinking they can save their marriage. But it might just work for us.
The funny thing is about it as well. I was watching The Mandalorian the other week. First time I've ever seen it, and I saw Carl Weathers into it. And no matter what I can see him in now, I just think of him as this guy who steals cold cuts from people's kitchens. But that's the thing. We're talking about the first three seasons with such fondness, despite the last two seasons of it being so awful. And the conundrum with me is, I think it's average at best, but did the last two seasons sink it so bad that we have to put it on the bad tier?
The seasons 4 and 5 by Netflix are the biggest mistakes Netflix have ever made, because even though they got literally everyone back, they still somehow made a rubbish show.
That's the thing. Like, Neil, what do you think? Do you agree with that assessment? Like, sort of, it should be average, but has the last two brought it down? So
it's more like, do people really, like, it's interesting one, right? Like, do people really care very much about those last two seasons? I know you need to take it as a whole, but, like, can we not just look fondly at the good times?
That's the thing.
Good times were amazing times.
That's the thing. I think I care about it in the sense that it ruined one of my favourite sitcoms. In a sense.
Pretend they never happened.
Season 3, I think season 3, you've kind of fortunately got that natural stopping point of the last episode is literally the first episode again.
This time with the mother, and there are times that they try and like make it funny, but I think it might be a bit rude to say, but I think George Michael growing up to be like 20-year-old Michael Cera just ruins it a bit, because that teenage adolescence that he portrayed, like being in love with someone that he shouldn't, just made it even funnier.
Yeah, a teenage adolescence is a lot more different than you're still into your cousin while in college.
Exactly. But like that's the thing, like it makes me laugh. But I think average or bad.
The thing is, season 4, the whole problem with it is that they decided we're not going to order it in episode order. We're going to order it in character order. So it's like you'll start watching one character's story with the other characters coming in and out, and they'll have massive changes, and you'll think, wait, what's happened here? And then 10 episodes down the line, you'll finally realize what happened, and it just doesn't work.
I mean, season 5 is meh as well, and it returned to the old formula, right? And they did before, and it didn't save it.
Yeah, but even then, I believe some of the with that time, the cracks had began to show with how big the cast had got. And by that I mean like Lich stardom. In that, Lindsay isn't in it for half a season. Admittedly, if you're going to lose one character, it might as well be her. But they were already at that point. At that point, it was the beginning of the end, and like they were struggling to write for these characters and for the cast were struggling to be able to perform these characters. It's just an unfortunate case of the fact that they waited. The fact that the show got cancelled in 2006, and then what year is it that it comes back?
2013.
There you go. 7 years. You just,
like I said, that it was cancelled at the right time in a sense, because it had such a good stopping point.
Why did it take another 5 years for the 5th season to come out?
Oh, we can't know these things. It's Netflix. We'll never get an answer. But anyway, I think we've spoken about this a good length. I think we should think about where we're going to rank this. So, you two?
To me, it's average. The last 2 seasons are just too horrific.
Yeah. Neil?
I'd probably say average is about fair. It's a shame given how good the first 3 are, but you got to consider as a whole, haven't you?
Do you have a say in it at all, Paddy? Really?
No, it's in my opinion, it's not worth it compared to your guys.
Honestly, if it ended at season 3, I'd probably have contemplated putting it in Golden Globe, but that's not the world we live in, and I'm going to be sticking it in average as well. Right. So, Patrick,
my final
your
10.
final.
Ending on a good one. I always like to end on a good one. The In-Between is the UK version. One of the most relatable comedies of all time. We've all been to school. And we've all
we've all been to school.
I mean, although it seems like some of us haven't been to school, we all know characters like the ones in the In-Betweeners, and it's just such relatable humor. Again, of course, exaggerated, but it's so relatable and so funny. So brilliantly done, so quintessentially English humor, and I love that it doesn't. There's not really a line. It goes as far as it wants in terms of what it talks about. It's just hilarious.
I mean, I think we can all like similar with a few of these British comedies. You've got a quote when you think of the In-Betweeners that you always think about.
But I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, you can't.
This one's about Burnley.
Oh,
yeah, that's in the movie. That's in the movie, though.
But equally, like, we went to the cinemas to see that, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, what I would say, the 3 series, I think we talk about a lot of shows going on for too long, and shows trying to bring out more than they should. And I like that In-Betweeners didn't try and do that. I think they could have probably fit another 1 or 2 seasons in there.
I don't know how though, because they'd finished school.
True, but maybe they could have, I don't know, done uni or something. It probably wouldn't have been as good.
Well, they did do uni.
That's just fresh meat.
That was
fresh meat's terrible.
And that was
speaking of fresh meat, that also had Simon in. Is fresh meat actually the sequel to the In-Betweeners that we've never realised?
I don't want to realise.
It's probably along those lines, but I thought fresh meat was not good. But sticking to the In-Betweeners, what do you think of the movies? Let's talk about the movies.
Not really. I think the first one's really good. I think the second one goes a bit, jumps the shark a bit.
Yeah.
I think
they're both pretty fun though. I'd say they still keep the charm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we weren't there. We're like stone faces. We still howled at it.
There's a lot of laugh out moments in both. I think the movie 1 is a much better all round movie. I watched the second movie again not long ago, and I was like, God, that's actually a pretty not great movie. but it is fun. It is funny. Plenty of hot love moments. I'd still watch it because it's fun. And the characters in the show are just funny. Whatever. It's brilliant.
I think what's weird about the second film is, and admittedly, this has nothing to do with the TV show, but they changed the characters of the women in the first one entirely. Have you noticed that?
Well, Simon's girlfriend stayed the same.
No, she went mental.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
mental. The entire
I was thinking
point of the first film
meant the actresses.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
No, because the entire point of the first film, really, if you're going to say what the main overarching storyline of it is, other than them having a lad's holiday, is Simon getting over Carly, and he ends up finding the nice girl, and then in the second film, she's the biggest psychopath ever.
But that can happen. I realize that sometimes a girl can seem normal, nice, but then suddenly you get into a relationship with her. She's a psychopath. That happens.
That sounds like you're talking from experience there.
Experience of people I know.
I know. I think are we going too far in looking at the movies? Should we look?
We are. We should not use them to judge the TV show.
No, I was just interested to hear your opinions on it. Do you think it ended at the perfect time?
Because it ended at a natural ending point of they'd finished school.
Yeah, there's no bad episodes in between. Is what I'd say.
And you had no, there isn't. You've got so many iconic ones in multiple seasons. Yeah. Personally, maybe season 3 is my favorite because of stuff like the fashion show, the camping trip, the trip to Warwick.
I love the fashion show. The fashion show is probably, I think, my favorite episode. I think that the show is just so relatable, so rewatchable. That the characters are just so likable and so brilliant, and you love how awkward they are because it makes you feel a bit better about yourself. So yeah.
That's the thing. Like I said before, when we were talking about the US version compared to this one, this is so real. You have done this, or you've heard of someone who's done stuff that's similar to this.
Some of my favorite humor is relatable humor, but I was relatable but exaggerated, and this captures that perfectly.
What do you relate to? Genuinely.
Paddy forgot his pants during the school's fashion show.
My testicles fell out.
Yeah. Genuinely, I feel like the only thing that I actually properly relate to in this show is the fact that I also went to sixth form.
Well, you got to think awkward school discos.
No, but it's not all about you. It's just about other people who've done it, and it's not just literal relation. It's just relating to the awkwardness of them and how awkward school life is. And
when Will goes to the Irish girl, Lauren, feisty one you are, and you're looking back and have you said anything that bad to a girl before?
It's just relating to being an awkward school teenager, but actually realizing there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, they're some of the funniest and best people. That's kind of almost the message of the show.
Thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be a Jay than a Donovan.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about it, but Donovan is seen as
two sides of a bad con of a.
Yeah, but it's Donovan is seen as a higher up in society, but really you'd rather be a Jay because he's more likable and more funny, and
some of the things he comes out. Yeah. Some of the things he comes out with, we cannot repeat on this.
A hidden note: have you actually seen the actor who plays Donovan in real life?
Yeah, he's meant to be dead posh.
He's extremely posh, and he has this really timid voice. You really should go listen to an interview in his proper voice, which I think just shows kind of what a good actor he is to be able to do that. What he did, but yeah, that's a side note. But yeah, it's a great show.
Should we think about putting this somewhere?
Mm-hmm. To me, it's Golden Globe. It brings so many memories to me. It's you can quote it all the time. It's so rewatchable.
Okay, Collins.
It's in between Golden Globe and great for me. So I'd be perfectly happy with it in either.
All right, Neil.
I'd put it in Golden Globe. It's a fantastic show.
Yeah, I think because of the legacy this has and how hilarious it is, I've got to put it Golden Globe as well.
Happy with that?
Yeah, it's the first one you got right all today. But yeah,
hang on. serious question now. What's wrong with fresh meat?
I've never seen it personally.
It's a long time since I've seen, but I just remember not liking it.
Yeah. All right, Neil, your
Jack
final one with the final one today. What are you bringing us?
I
see.
You are one of the UK's biggest sitcoms of recent years in Peep Show. 9 seasons of bloody great television, to be honest. A really, really funny show and dark in a fantastically British way. I just feel like the show is so watchable. And, you know, the perspective they use with the camera really, like, brings you close to the protagonists and make them relatable. I like the show a lot. I really like Peep Show.
Yeah, I love the you go on, Collins.
I really don't like Peep Show. I find the characters utterly dreadful. Like, as people, there's not a redeeming thing about them. And
it's cringe humor though, again, which you said you don't like.
Yeah, that is the main reason why I don't like it. It's entirely based on making people feel uncomfortable while laughing. So I sort of feel like I have to bow out, as in I have a bad faith argument of it's just not the sort of thing that I'm going to enjoy. Because to me, it would be similar to Office UK, which I put in Bad Catwoman.
Your opinion is still important, though, even if it's sort of a biased opinion. It's still important. Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of this show, but I do. I really like David Mitchell, Robert Webb. I think they're really clever writers and really funny people. And again, I'm the opposite. I do like awkward and cringe humor, and I think this is a good example of that. And the first person view of the show is unique, and it just brings you closer to the comedy, and I like that about it.
Yeah, I'm quite in the middle of it, you know, because I don't usually like cringe humor. I think it does really like grind me up inside, like looking at some of the situations they get into. Like the very first episode where Olivia Colman's character sits on Mark's hand, and like he sat there for like 2 minutes wondering what to do. And just stuff like that is cringy, and he's got to fight like against the kids around his flat.
I like the inner dialogues in it as well. Like,
yeah, I think that's what makes it for me as well. But I think one of the things I look at is when I'm on YouTube, I get like suggested this. It's like one iconic quote from every Peep Show episode, and a lot of them just make me laugh out loud. Like when Jez is eating the dog.
Oh,
the barbecued dog. And one of the things I'll see on YouTube is every time Jez sinks to a new low. And that does make me chuckle, really. But, like, I think this is a big one for, like, you, Neil, and Collins, because you seem to have the very dividing features on this. I think it's quite in the middle. Paddy, do you think it's rather, like, in the middle, sort of?
On the tier list?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to struggle to rank this one. I'm somewhere between great and average. I've been more inclined to put it in great. I like this sort of humour. I really like David Mitchell and Robert Webb.
Yeah, they're great actors.
Especially David Mitchell. I think comedically he's so funny, and I love his awkwardness in the show. I just love that type of humour, and I need to watch more of the show to get a more fuller opinion. But from what I've seen, I'd push it towards a great show.
That does make me laugh, though. Looking back now, Olivia Colman was like a supporting actress in that.
But she's done a lot of like. It took her a long time to get like where she is.
And where she is now,
just shows
Oscar
you, like,
winner, Golden Globe winner, I think, as well.
Just shows you how hard it can be. Yeah.
But yeah, Neil, like, what like makes you watch this? Like, is this something you watch like 2 or 3 times?
I think I've watched every episode of it. I've not watched it through again. I believe I've watched the whole thing through once. But I think it's like that perfect kind of farce / black comedy. Really, I just, it's that kind of like cringe comedy that you can't look away from. I think, like, the show gets away with a lot, and I think that's awesome. Like, put it this way: how many shows can get away with having like that first-person perspective of a sex scene on Channel 4?
I mean,
well,
yeah.
In between is thinking about we didn't mention the scene when where they're on the bed.
Yeah.
where it's just like static up and
flapping
down.
around like a dead fish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not many shows can get away with that. You know what? You need to be a good show.
I think just Channel 4.
But like you've got
Channel 4 seem to do well with the comedies. To be fair.
They do. I think Channel 4 are quite an unsung hero when it comes to comedies and stuff.
Yeah, I think they're a bit of an underrated channel, to be honest.
Yeah.
We've got Friday Night Dinner as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we didn't put on this tier list, but that would be quite high.
That would be a part two.
Yeah, part two.
Go back to Neil.
Hey, no, I think I said my piece. I think it's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
Like I think I haven't seen loads of it, but what I have seen whilst awkward humor can like really get me going. Like I think it's iconic enough to put in great. Personally.
Yeah, I'll put in great. I don't think my opinion carries as much weight as Neil's, but I think I'm going to say great.
To me, it's bad.
I would also put great.
Yeah, I think let's finish on the great then. I mean, shame we didn't put it in Golden Globe. Would have been quite a nice symmetrical pattern there, but you can't have everything you want.
Yeah, this has been absolutely fantastic. The thing is, I love sitcoms because you can say stuff and you can be howling for hours even if you're not watching it at the time, like just memories from it. But for now, let's start getting into the closing segments of everything. So, Paddy, anything last words?
Apart from goodbye, no.
You're so. Isn't he so charismatic? Everyone.
Listen, mate. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes. The viewers want to go
home. Neil, any last words?
Not really. Hey, enjoy your 50% off discount at all food businesses the following month. Take advantage. Take the money from the government. Go do that.
Isn't it a tenner off Nando's and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I think so. Something like that.
Nando's then?
Government subsidise Nando's, lads. What a world.
Cheeky government Nando's. Collins, any last words?
It's been a good episode today. Glad that my first topic went off with a nice popular show for us all. Enjoy and look forward to next time when we do Power Ballads.
You horror! I wanted to introduce that because I think Power Ballads is something very different because we've usually been picking the categories, but thanks to one of me mates, Alicia, this is going to be the first fan suggested video, and we had a lot of fun thinking about stuff for this. Another reminder, we have Twitter and Instagram, and we are actually starting to upload things now. It's helped out at the Tier List podcast. But from all of us, from me, Collins, Neil, and Paddy, this has been the Tier List podcast. We'll see you later.